Today I have the very, very great honor of sharing with you a bit of the conversation that Krishna has with Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. For those of you who don't know about the story, Arjuna, he's a warrior and he's just about to fight his own family. He's just about to fight his uncle, his grandfather, his cousins, just about to have to kill them. Fortunately, he is accompanied by the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, whose name is Krishna, whose mantra we just invoked, Om Namo Narayanaya. Fortunately, he has the company of a great soul with him who teaches him. And actually, he is also his cousin, so they have a very close relationship. How blessed, right? To be cousins with the incarnation of the divine. Wow. And so he's having a panic attack in the middle of the battlefield because obviously it's not an easy thing to have to approach, to have to fight your own family. And he's doing it within the context of a war. We do it a lot within the context of our lives, of having to have conflict with close members of our family, or people that we're friends with, or people that we have created a very close relationship with in life. Those relationships change very often. And very often what we receive from someone isn't stable, it fluctuates, and that creates a lot of pain, a lot of turmoil, a lot of difficulty, which is what Arjuna is facing at this moment in the middle of the battlefield. And that is the subject of our Satsang today. So the Bhagavad Gita is a very vast dialogue. It has 700 shlokas divided into 18 chapters. And it deals with many different aspects of suffering and pain, such as change, people's reactions, anger, resentment, insecurity, joy, suffering. And for today's satsang, I have chosen the subject of change. Change, loss, how to deal with things changing in a way that I didn't want them to change. Because we all want a better life for ourselves, right? Who wants a better life for themselves? Raise your hand. Yes. Yes, we all wake up in the morning hoping for the day to be better, right? We all wake up in the morning with a little project and with a little to-do list, and we feel that if we accomplish this to-do list in the morning, then we're going to have a better day, because this is what propels us forward in life. This is why we do everything in life. The idea that there is something better for me lying ahead of me through my actions. And that if I fulfill these actions and this master plan that I had in my head, hi, how are you? If I fulfill these actions and the master plan that I had in my head, then I am going to get to that better state of life. I'm going to get the joy and I'm going to be successful. So in our endeavor to propel things forward, life responds to us. Life says, oh, you want better, you want to grow, you want to get to level C. Life responds to us, but it doesn't always respond the way that we expect it to. Usually when change starts to come into our life, which comes as a result of our own calling, we want things to change, we want things to become better. So life says, okay, you want things to become better, then let's start to stir things around a little bit. You're like, oh, no, that's not how I wanted them to change. I had a different idea in my head of how you were going to bring things into my life. So it's conflicting, because we want life to be better. Life responds to our inner calling, bringing change for the better to unfold. But then we're like, no, I don't like the way that you're doing things. I want you to do them my way. This is the idea and this is the plan that I have drawn in my mind. A should lead to B and B should lead to C. What you are doing to me right now, that's no good. And this change is not what I've been calling for. So how do we get over that, right? And it's weird because we want better, but then we feel very uncomfortable when things are changing. And we don't trust change. We think change is going against us, or change is here to give me a hard time in life, or change is some form of punishment. Change is not my friend. I have bad karma at the moment. There must be some Saturn influence in my life right now. You probably, pay to do an astrological reading at that moment. What is happening in my life? That things are changing so out of plan. This isn't what I asked for. So we fail to trust the change that we have called for in our lives. And it's almost like we want things to change, but we also want to keep part of what we are living with at the moment. We want to take the old with us, take the old into the new stage of life as well. And Krishna has a lot to say about this. In the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter number 8, Krishna very compassionately, he reminds us that creation is ashvatam. Creation is temporary. And that you're clinging on to something that cannot be clinged onto. He says creation is temporary, ashvatam, and that creation is full of dukkhalayam, that it has dukkha, that there's in this change and in this process of growth that you want to give yourself to, you will definitely encounter bits of it that are not to your liking, dukkha, and there will be some parts of it that will be to your liking, sukha. Yeah, so he says ashvatam. In chapter number 8, in shloka number 15, he says this. And so he's reminding us, hey, don't you know that the nature of this creation is impermanence? So, you need to get comfortable with it. And that's part of the problem because we reject change. And it is true that change is very uncomfortable, especially when it is bringing good things into our lives. And this is what we always have to remember, that there's always something good embedded in the difficulty. But change is also very bearable. So we have this wrong notion that change is uncomfortable and unbearable, but change is bearable with the right perspective towards change, which is what the Bhagavad Gita shares with us. And then we also have the notion that we have this idea within ourselves that change is undesirable, that for me to be successful, things have to move in the way that I want them to move. Change is undesirable, and that it is avoidable, but unfortunately it isn't, because of what Krishna is reminding that to us. He's saying the nature of this creation is ashvatam. It is impermanence, and so be comfortable with it and trust it. And it's almost like we have this idea that, there's this author called Leon Tolstoy, and he wrote a novel, and in one of the novels, the main character, he's witnessing somebody else dying. He witnesses the death of one of his friends, and he's very comfortable with the idea of death happening to his friend and change happening to his friend, but then when death comes to him, he's very uncomfortable thinking, oh, I thought death and change were never going to touch me. I thought change and death were for the others. And we're usually very comfortable seeing change in other people's lives, but then when it comes to us, we think, oh, but wasn't I the exclusion? Why is it happening to me? I am okay with it happening to people and in the world and in wars and with animals. But with me, no, I should be immune to change. It shouldn't be happening to me. And But it's part of life, and also, if we think of it, all these like hurricanes that we go through in our life are part of the beauty of life, because it's testimony that we are alive also. If you look at the heart monitor in a hospital, if the heart monitor in a hospital is flat, then we think of that person as dead, right? So in order to have the experience of life, it is also very important to have the ups and downs. That's how you know that a person is alive, with the heart monitor. So through the lens of the Bhagavad Gita, the issues that we have with change are very much reliant on the perspective that we have to change, and not change itself, because change is creative. Change can bring a lot of good things in our life, and even when things change in a way that we didn't expect them to change, and change differently to how we wanted them to, and change in a way that makes us very uncomfortable, and change in a way that sometimes creates pain on us and disappoints us. Sometimes you're disappointed by people, disappointed by family, disappointed by your close relationships. Unexpected things happen in your life. That change has always something good in it. And at the end of the day, the issue is always in terms of our relationship with it. And so one of the things that we really need to put into perspective is that in order for things to move forward, then we need to get comfortable, number one. So number one of this like formula, this new perspective towards change, we need to be willing to close doors. So we have this desire and the idea that, no, I can control this. I can control how I want this new chapter of my life to come. I'm going to keep all the things that I really like about this chapter with me, and then I'm going to move on to the next chapter. But when winter moves into spring, winter doesn't come along with spring. Winter ends, and then spring starts. And often the challenge with closing the door, and closing it willingly, and closing it courageously with bravery, is that we think that as we close the door, we're losing a part of ourselves. And as we say no to a job, as we say no to people, as we say no to a relationship, as we say no to maybe a very beautiful chapter in our lives, which also sometimes we can keep a little bit of that chapter in our lives, but sometimes we have to close the door entirely on things. Sometimes we have to move cities. Sometimes we have to withdraw from our families for some time. Sometimes you have to leave a group that you have been working for so long as well. And so the challenge that we face is that when we're closing these doors, the resistance to closing the door and the anxiety that we confront ourselves with when we close the doors is because we think that we're losing a part of ourselves, because we have created such a big identity around the people that we work with, the relationship, the city, the place, the status quo that we've been living in. We've created an identity with it. And we feel like, oh gosh, but I am becoming less, I am less. Now I don't have this. Who will I become? I don't know. Who will I become? What is this unknown future that is waiting for me? And there's all that anxiety of, who am I now? Who will I be if I don't have this title, if I don't have this role, if I don't have this security, because we will see later that there's no security, really. Krishna is saying that the creation is ashwatam. And so to this anxiety, Krishna has a very beautiful shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. And he says, what do you mean, who will you become? What do you mean, what will happen to you? What are you so much relying to you? Have I not told you already? Na inam chidanti shastrani, he says in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, who you truly are cannot be affected by anything. Na inam chidanti shastrani means your true essence cannot be cut by weapons. He's speaking to Krishna within the context of the war that he's just about to fight with his cousin. He's saying, and Arjuna is, concerned at that moment, oh my God, I'm going to kill my cousins, I'm going to kill my family. And he's anxious about that. I am making them lose on their life. I'm creating loss around them. And Krishna reminds him, like, no, nothing is being lost. Nothing can never be lost. You can never lose a part of yourself. Through change, nothing is ever lost, because when it comes to the soul, na inam means he's referring to the soul. He's speaking to the soul prior to that, and then he says na inam. So to emphasize that again, the soul cannot be harmed by weapons. In our context, the soul cannot be harmed by anything. The soul cannot become less of a soul if it says no to a job, if it says no to people, if it says no to friends. Sometimes it's just not us saying no. Sometimes life says, okay, that's it. Karma is over. Next chapter. Whether you like it or not. And so much of the fear of closing that door, which is required in order to create the better, not, and letting go of this false notion that I can carry with me the old as I walk into the new. So much of that anxiety can be put at peace if we remind ourselves of these words of Krishna. Na inam chidanti shastrani. The soul cannot be hurt by weapons. You will not become less of a person, and you're not losing anything if you say no to things, and if you close the door. Close it comfortably. Let go of it. Move on to the next chapter. Na inam dahati pavaka, he says, the soul cannot be burnt by fire. Just imagine, like this great soul. You put your hand into the fire, you feel something, but just imagine the unlimited power of the soul and ability of the soul. It cannot be affected by anything. Na cha inam, so to emphasize, na cha inam, Kledantaya apo. Apo is water. Kledantaya is humidify. You cannot make it humid by water. The whole creation is made by the 5 elements, and none of the 5 elements can touch the soul. So what are you so afraid of? Close the door. Close the door. Let's move on to the next chapter. Yeah. And then he also says, Na ina soshayati maruta. The soul cannot be dried by the wind. So the Pancha Mahabhutas, the 5 great entities of this creation, who rule creation, they cannot touch the soul. So nothing in this plane and nothing in this realm of existence can ever make you be less of a person. You can never be diminished, which is the anxiety that we feel when we're closing doors. So close them courageously, because what is truly you will always be you and will always stay with you forever. And so this other anxiety that Krishna pacifies through his shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita is that we think that as we close the door and as we move on and into the next chapter of our lives, we think, oh, but I'm doing this by myself. Gosh, I'm all alone, moving in this new direction now. No one is supporting me. And also, the results of my actions, gosh, it is my responsibility now to create this plan B, like this fantastic future that I had for myself as the doors are closing and as I willingly walk away from them. You think, oh my God, it is all my responsibility. And so then you're like, okay, then maybe I don't. Maybe I stay in the status quo. Maybe I just keep things the way they are, because if I walk through that door, then I am all by myself, and it is down to me to make things happen. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he reminds us over and over again about our relationship with action. Karma Yoga, our relationship with action. Krishna says, Ma karma phaleshu. Not the fruits. Phaleshu is fruits. Karma is action. Ma is negating that. Your duty is not to the fruit of the action. Your duty is towards the action. So what are you so worried about? You called for change in your life. You called for better. You want growth. I'm bringing growth into your life. Maybe it's not in the form that you expected it. Maybe it is hurting you. Maybe it is disappointing you a little bit. But I'm telling you that is the nature of things. Close the door, because you're not going to lose anything. You are Atman. Nothing is going to be lost. And your duty is towards karma, the action, and not towards phalation. Forget about the fruits. Give me the fruits. How reassuring, right? Isn't it awesome? Can you imagine Krishna in the middle of the battlefield telling you, just fight. I'll take care of the results of it. So reassuring. But we can use that to reassure ourselves, because this is a dialogue that happened in real life. And when we call these verses, and when we invoke them in the Sanskrit, it brings forth the remembrance, that moment that Krishna was telling this to Arjuna himself as well. So leave the fruits of the action to me. You just focus on doing the right thing. Do your dharma. Do what you had envisioned. Do what you know has to be done at this moment. Even though it feels uncomfortable, get it done. Do it. There's also two very beautiful letters by Swami Shivananda, who you see here. Swami Jyotimayananda's guru. And Swami Shivananda, in one of his books, he always used to say, you think that you are unsupported because you're expecting for a miracle to feel like you are supported. And we live our lives reading from the books that we are supported, thinking that we believe it, and yes, I buy into this philosophy that I am supported. But then when it comes to live by it, then we're like, oh no, I need proof. Prove to me that you are here with me. Come incarnate yourself here. Speak to me in my dreams. Let me have some supernatural experience in meditation, then I will believe that you are here with me. And Swami Shivananda, he always had a very beautiful way of responding to that. He used to say, what so much proof you are looking for? That the universe is supporting you. You have the proof in your body. Isn't your heart beating at the rhythm that it has to beat? Isn't your breath flowing at the pattern that it has to flow? Isn't your digestion working? You can hear divinity. You can hear the support of the universe within yourself. You are the evidence. Why are you seeking some supernatural experience when you are the evidence that there is support? And so go and make that change, because the support is there already living inside of you. You're not asking your heart to beat in sync. It's beating by itself. The support is there. When you wake up the next morning having crossed that new door, your body will be there. The support will be there. Life force will be there for you. So you can walk through it without feeling the anxiety. By the way, I have experienced these things myself a lot, the anxiety of change, which is why I like so much to remind myself of these teachings. And then there is another letter of Swami Shivananda, again, where he says, and even Patanjali speaks of it in the Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, have you heard of him? Patanjali, he's another practitioner who took a different path. He took the path of meditation. And even though in his scriptures and in his school, the tool for harmony and the tool for joy, the tool for yoga is meditation, he says it 3-4 times in different sutras. Nothing will propel you forward and nothing will hold you more steadily than devotion. Devotion and surrender and giving in. He says, Ishvara pranidana va. Surrender. He gives you a set of 7 steps to follow, but even after giving the 7 steps, like practical things for you to do in order for you to experience yoga and for you to experience equanimity, at the end, the conclusion is surrender. Just surrender, just let it go and let divinity step in. And it is the same that Swami Shivananda also says in one of his books. He says, all insurance companies will ask for you to pay a premium, and then they will measure how much they give back to you when you file a claim. But if you insure yourself with a divine insurance company, and you just give yourself to the divinity, then divinity will always give you endlessly. And he says you have to pay no premium to the divine insurance company. You just have to give your love. You just give your love, and divinity will insure you. And it will respond to all of your claims and anything that you need with no minimum premium that you have to pay. You just have to give your love. And therefore he says, And so Swami Shivananda, he says, you see, the universe is always giving to you. Divinity is always giving to you. How much more shall it give to you if you believe in it? Even when you're unaware, the heart is beating. Even when you're not asking it to, the breath is flowing. How much more will it give to you if you turn to it with faith and devotion? That will amplify it. In all the scriptures, it is always said that bhava, an attitude, amplifies everything. That it propels things forward. And so we can start to see how in change, there's always grace. There's always grace in change. And it is something that Krishna also alludes to in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter number 11, in shloka number 32. He says, Asmi Kala. I am time. I am time. I am time. I am... I need to remind myself of how to say this word. I am Kashaya, which is to destroy. I am destruction. I am Kashaya. And I am Samarutam. I am the dismantling of things. I am the withdrawal of things. When things move away, and when you feel like things are being taken away from you, I am that. I am that energy. I am that force. I am the Kshaya. I am the destruction. Asmi, me, I am Kala. I am time. So when things are changing and when life is exploding and like you're devastated because things are really not going in the way that you intended them to, Krishna is saying to you, I am there. It is me who is doing it. I am there. So whenever things are going pear-shaped in your life, or when your plan A and the change that you were steering towards to is becoming a plan Z, it's happened to me. I've gone A, B, C, D, E, F, up until Z. Just remind yourself that this is Krishna's prasad also. This is, Krishna is giving it to you. Krishna is here with me. You think you're walking alone, but he's saying in the shloka, I am that time, I am the destruction, and I am the thing that unsettles you, which is me. So wouldn't you want me in your life? Didn't you ask for me? Didn't you ask for my company? Didn't you ask for my tutorship? So I'm here giving it to you. And I am giving it to you in the best possible way that I can give it to you. Because have you think of yourselves at a moment where you have gone through deep, intense suffering in your life? We have all been there. Remind yourselves of a moment in life where you have gone through immense solitude. You're alone, like literally no one is coming to lift you up. Who do you turn to at that moment? You turn to yourself. You turn to yourself at that moment, which is the whole purpose of the practice of yoga. So like years and years and efforts of practice of yoga are done for you in one moment of hardship and sorrow. You feel so much pain and so much solitude that you have no choice but to turn to yourself, and not the little self. You have to turn to the big self and to get the strength from the self. So there you go, the lesson, the yoga that we are so earnestly working for through satsang, meditation, asana, pranayama, yama, niyama, in 1 second. I give you a little bit of suffering, I give you a little bit of change, a little bit of loss in the way that you don't want it, You feel alone, you feel desperate, I am here with you. I'm your tutor. I am making you turn the attention to the inside. I am making you recognize the self with capital S. I'm making you letting go of the little self. I want you to find the strength within yourself. So there is so much grace in that. And then the Bhagavad Gita also speaks so much about, the change is happening and things get taken away from you precisely, not because of bad karma, but precisely because Krishna wants you to realize that you never needed anything in the long run anyway. And that your inner strength and that your true pillar is the self that you turn towards to when everything else falters. And it's not that the things and the people that are faltering around you are bad and that, they have lost my trust or they're betraying me. It is the gunas. It is just the gunas playing their role in creation, the attributes of nature, playing a role towards you as your teacher. They're just your teacher. They want you to go within, and the whole experience of, Krishna saying, Asmi Kala, I am the time, and I am Kashaya, I am the destruction, I am there with you. It is my lesson. It is my will that you go through this turmoil. Because it is the only way that I have to show you, when you turn to yourself, that you are the self, that you are your pillar. And it is the only way that I have to show you that all the things that you thought that you were reliant on, they are not you. And that you don't need them. And that you can survive without them anyway. How much better can I teach you this lesson than taking everything away from you, and then you realizing that, even though, I lost my job or I left a relationship, and can you maybe backtrack in your lives in the past to see when you have felt that, oh no, my life is gone. What am I going to do from here? And if you look at yourself now, right? If you look at yourself now, then you think, oh, I am fine. I survived that because I was never any of those things. I think that's one of the most beautiful ways that Krishna has to teach us this, really. And it is so powerful when he says, I am the time, and I am the destruction, and I am the unsettling of things. You wanted me in your life? I am here, and this is the biggest of my teachings and the best of my teachings to stir things up for you. So this other misconception that we have is that things are happening because of bad karma, and that karma is moving me in a difficult direction. But I think we can utilize everything that we have spoken of to transcend that notion, right? It's not bad karma, it is just a lesson that is coming there. And another reason why we find it so difficult to transcend it and to move away from it and to make peace with with the change that is happening in our lives is because we have this notion of having to control things. And that as I control things and as I have foresight of what is going to happen in the future, and as I have predictability, then that predictability of how things are going to unfold is directly proportional to my peace and to my happiness. That if I can predict, then I have security that I'm going to be happy in the future. If you cannot predict, then that's my happiness is in danger if I cannot predict. And so we like to have visibility, and we like to know where things are going, which is why we reject it so much when things start to change in a way that we didn't anticipate, which is how things usually change. But Krishna tells us in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm sorry, my friend, that's not how it works. We go back to karma, ma karma phaleshu. You have to focus on the action. You cannot predict the outcome. And even though you plan it to perfection, how many of the things that you have tried to control in your lives, and how many of the things that you thought were going to happen in a specific way, change regardless? Like you do an Excel sheet with your trip and your holiday, and you know where you're going to go, at what time you're going to take the train. If you go to Italy or one of these European cities, like when you want to go to all the museums and everything, you plan a day to perfection, the train, the bus, the museum entrance, and then so many things happen in between that interfere with your plan, right? So predictability does not determine outcome, and predictability does not determine joy, and predictability and wanting to predict things, Krishna says, that's an obstacle. He speaks of it as paripantinau. It is an obstacle in the path. It is, at the end of the day, it is an urge to control. An urge to control is raga. It is an attachment. Things must happen in the way that I want them to happen, raga. And that attachment to how I want them to happen creates suffering. He says it is an obstacle in your path. Your attachment to how you want things to happen is an obstacle in the path to your growth and to where I'm taking you to. And the same with dvesha. He says raga, dvesha, both raga, dvesha are paripantinau. Both raga, dvesha are paripantinau. Chapter 3, shloka number 32. They're obstacles. And your attachment to what you don't want to happen, the suffering that you want to avoid, which is why you plan everything to perfection, and you plan, like how I've always really struggled with this question when you go to interviews and they say, how do you see yourself in 10 years' time? Like, gosh, you cannot ask that. You cannot ask a yogi to respond to that, because if I answer to you from my Vedantic, so predicting and having a set list of things that I desire for them to happen in the way that I want them to happen, raga, and also a set of things that I don't want them to come into my life, dvesha, and these must not happen. This must not happen, and this must not happen for me to get to my happiness. Krishna says, raga, dvesha, paripantinau. They are obstacles. Let them go, because you are interfering in the abundance that I'm wishing and wanting to give to you. And so obviously, holding ourselves to this perspective, I'm rounding up now, just 5 more minutes. Holding ourselves to this perspective requires a lot of strength and courage, right? I'm not undermining that, and I'm not underestimating that. Arjuna does have Krishna standing right next to him in the middle of the battlefield. So it's much easier if you have him speaking to you. But this is why we have satsang. This is why we have these gatherings, because it helps so much when all of us are rowing together in that direction, when we are all studying this, when we're all being reminded of the truth. And then we can support each other, we can speak up to each other about these different changes that are coming to stir our lives up, and we can support each other through the wisdom of the scriptures, which is what Krishna also says, like it is through wisdom that you will be able to access yoga. So we should always turn to the scriptures for this. And always remember that if you look at all the changes that you have encountered in your life, this is quite cliche, but they're always a blessing in retrospect. And change is always bringing something good in your life. In the bad, we must always train ourselves to try to identify the good in it. Always try to identify what is the good that is happening in this disappointment. What is the good that is happening in this sadness that I feel from having to pause this relationship with my friend, with my family, with my job? What am I learning here? And never take the change that is stirred around you through people and through circumstances personally. It is just the gunas. Imagine if Arjuna would have taken it personally in the middle of the battlefield. Game over. Like, become the victim. Oh, my family don't love me. My family should have shared more of the wealth with me. Life is not my friend. Game over, right? So don't take it personally. At the end of the day, Krishna tells Arjuna, the gunas are playing themselves out. The gunas are playing themselves out to teach you, to elevate you, to take you towards the yoga that I have planned for you. So don't take it personally. Forgive, forget, let it go, move on, close the door willingly. And as much as you try to control things, Krishna tells Arjuna in chapter 11 again, in the same shloka, number 32, he tells Arjuna, things will change regardless. Whether you kill them or not, they will die regardless. Things change regardless. Whether you try to control them, don't try to control them, change is inevitable. It will happen all the time anyway. Make peace with change. Make friends with change. Use it to your advantage. Use it as an opportunity to reprioritize the things in life. It's a great opportunity to create a new chapter in your life, to rewrite your story for yourself, to change the things that you're focusing on, to focus on things that maybe you hadn't been able to focus on in the past. You can give yourself so much more. And always remember what Krishna also speaks about in the Bhagavad Gita. He says that the most blissful of the nectars and the true nectar comes through discipline, and effort come through Shreya, which it's the word that is used to illustrate that something that is not evidently pleasant. Like, I remember when I did my first teacher training course as a student, I used to fall asleep in class the whole time. I have pictures of one of my classmates the other day. She sent me a photo of me falling asleep in the philosophy class. I'm really? That was me? Because I was never very keen on waking up early and like having this like super disciplined like ashram schedule. There was a lot of goodness in it, but it was a goodness that was hidden in effort and in difficulty. Now I love it, and now I'm very uncomfortable if I'm not able to follow that schedule. But so Krishna speaks of change, and the change that brings the greatest of the nectars in your life is always the change of the quality of Shreya. There is difficulty, there is an effort that you have to put into the situation, into the person, into the move, into letting go. If there's an effort involved, then I assure you there will be nectar later on for you to drink, as opposed to what is spoken of as preya. Yeah, preya, I think? Yeah, preya. Which is pleasure that you get immediately from something, which doesn't necessarily lead you to your ultimate good. Like, preya in that same example would have been, okay, well, I just sleep and I miss the philosophy class. I don't go to philosophy class. I just go to sleep. Okay, so I hope that this has inspired you to change your perspective towards change, to trust it more, to reduce your anxiety levels. Remember that you have a group of people here that think the way that you think also, that it's not just you by yourself in the world with this new perspective to life, that there are others also rowing in the same direction. And even though Krishna is not here with us, giving us his shlokas, remember that as per his words, he's always there in time and he's always there in change. And feel his presence. And if you need more juice to feel his presence, read the shlokas. Read them. Then the Sanskrit will awaken that within you with the same power that it awoke that knowledge and strength and courage in Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield. Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you so much.